Hi, Henny, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Teknikolour. I have so much to update you on because it's been weeks since I've last uploaded a video. I'm sorry. Let's check out this build I made on the Canal corner lot in Evergreen Harbor while I explain. Actually, before I even talk about what's kept me from posting, I should give some more context to this build. I built this one-bedroom home on that 20 by 15 lot, Canal Corner in Evergreen Harbor's Conifer Station neighborhood. I have so rarely built in this world, which shipped with eco lifestyle, but I felt inspired to make a little eco-friendly home with an attached greenhouse. So where else to build other than here? I had been looking for interesting-looking homes online for inspiration because I desperately needed to get my mind off of something. More on that in a moment. And I saw this quirky building and just got to work. Oh, and I have some good news and some bad news before we get too far into this build. First, the good news. This build only uses 3 packs. The bad news? They're unfortunately all expansion packs. I'm sorry. Aside from eco lifestyle, I also used businesses and hobbies and royalty and legacy, so it's kind of an interesting selection of packs. While I start to work on the look of the exterior of the build, let me give you that update on why I've been kind of MIA lately. If you've been to my Twitch streams, you haven't seen too much more of me, but at least you already know more about what's been going on. Let me just catch you up. So, in August of last year, there was this one night where I just couldn't sleep. Initially, I felt a bit restless and I thought, TMI, sorry, that I had some trapped gas or something. I don't know. So I spent most of the night after my boyfriend had already gone to sleep, just walking around our living room and watching TV. If you didn't know, peppermint can be helpful with those kinds of pains, so I legitimately just kept popping these peppermint candies into my mouth that we'd bought on vacation recently. Those, other medications, and walking around and attempting all the usual things to help were doing absolutely nothing for me. As the night progressed, I got this awful stomachache that I assumed could have been from dinner or even the many peppermint candies I'd been eating, which also morphed into this absolutely terrible pain in my back on my right side. If you don't know me, I'm a very anxious person just generally, but I have a lot of health anxiety. So I was going through it that night, trying to figure out what was happening to me. I barely slept at all, and I told my boyfriend what happened when he woke up for work in the morning. But we both just assumed it was a nasty stomachache or something like that. After that night, I think I felt sort of similar-ish randomly, but I didn't feel that intense pain until the following month. And then the month after that. And the month after that. When it happened yet again in November, we'd already tried ruling out all of the typical issues that had any sort of relation to my symptoms. To be fair, my symptoms at the time didn't seem to match kidney stones, gallbladder, appendix, or really anything that it could be. My boyfriend and I had tried narrowing it down for months, and all we could come up with was maybe it was a diverticulitis flare-up. We finally went to urgent care, and they were unsure of what it could be, especially because by the time we showed up, the pain was already subsiding. They sent me home with the idea that it could be a back spasm, which I believed because some years ago, I was in a car accident with my mom, which left both of us with lingering back issues. My brother, who'd already needed his gallbladder out, was convinced it was my gallbladder too. Other friends and family assumed maybe appendix, though it didn't make sense that it was this months-long issue. My pain location was kind of in the general area of all of these potential issues, but my symptoms were all just kind of different. I didn't have a fever or any of the more standard symptoms that would help us narrow things down. It didn't make sense to anyone, most especially me. By this point, it had been 5 months of this general feeling of unwellness with these extreme 12 or more hours of intense back and stomach pain one night of each of those months. In December, a week before Christmas, I was up again all night. and the pain was quite possibly the worst that it had ever been up to that point. My boyfriend had already left for work and knew how I felt, but since we didn't have any idea what was causing it, we were just sort of living with it at this point. But a few hours after he'd been at work, the pain was severe. Generally, these kinds of nights were spent with me in pain and trying anything to help ease that pain, including spending a lot of time running to the bathroom. I'd also started to convince myself that if I vomited, I'd feel better because that actually had helped once or twice. I don't have emetophobia, and most people don't enjoy throwing up. But I started to hate it because it was this monthly occurrence for me now, and vomiting stopped helping me feel better by now. This day, literally a week before Christmas Eve, I was writhing in pain and crying on my bathroom floor. I decided to call my parents and see what they thought. I wasn't sure if I had to go to the emergency room or not, but it was decided that we were going. I don't remember exactly how long we were there, but it was hours, and we didn't get home until it was very late. What was worse was, even though my dad was there the whole time, he was stuck in the waiting room because the emergency room was so packed that they weren't letting any visitors in. That wasn't great for my anxiety, but somehow I made it through on my own. They performed test after test, but nothing came back with any real reason as to why I was in so much pain. Then, as I think my assigned doctor was preparing to discharge me, they told me that it was likely muscular, but that in extreme cases, to be safe, they'd normally order a CT scan. I don't even remember how that conversation went, but I was scheduled for a scan after that. I think I waited around 2 hours for that scan, and when I finally saw my doctor walking around, I practically ran after them to ask about my scan. I know those usually take a while, and I'm sure they didn't forget to book me for it, but we were all exhausted at that point. Thankfully, though, I had the scan shortly after, and that's when they told me that they found the cause for all of my pain: a 5mm kidney stone. They gave me a few prescriptions and information and told me that it would pass naturally and to come back if I felt the same amount of pain again. That's where I messed up, I think. I feel like I should have known that the stone likely wouldn't have passed since I'd been experiencing all of this since August. But I'd never had kidney stones before, so I had no clue what was normal or what to expect. So I believed that it would pass naturally. Until about a month later, when it hadn't, and I had the pain again. I should have gone back to the emergency room, I guess. I just didn't think it was an emergency anymore. Realistically, I thought, what would they do? Run all the same tests? Do a CT scan and send me back home? I think I also assumed it might still pass and it could just take a long time. I don't know. It feels so foolish now. Plus, I had a urology appointment scheduled right after Christmas for the earliest appointment that they had, which was in March. In February, the pain was pretty bad again. I couldn't keep anything down, not even water. And minutes later, I'd be vomiting. I was scared. So was my boyfriend. We reached out to a friend of ours who works in healthcare, and they gave us some advice and told us what to look out for if we should go to the emergency room again. This time, however, we weren't even sure how we would get to the emergency room if we needed to, other than an ambulance, because that blizzard that hit New York City was actively happening during this time. So my dad wouldn't be able to pick me up in his car. All the roads were closed. We didn't know what to do. Eventually, I was able to fall asleep, and the pain was mostly subsided by the time I woke up. I was able to drink water and eat and keep it down, so we were very relieved and just very, very much hopeful for my upcoming urology appointment in like 2 weeks. I went to the appointment, explained everything, including the timeline. But I think because I wasn't actively in pain then, the doctor assumed I was okay. We scheduled another CT scan and a follow-up appointment with a nurse practitioner to review the results and talk about next steps. Between that first appointment and the scheduled scan, I was feeling pain again, and it felt different. So I was reaching out to that nurse practitioner and asking for advice or if there was any medication I could take to help me get through it before our appointments. This NP was fabulous. They truly listened to everything I was saying and how I felt, and I guess advocated to my urologist about my symptoms. I think pleading my case that surgery would be necessary. Finally, I had my CT scan, and the results showed that I did have a kidney stone, now 6 millimeters in size. And then after that, the pain got so severe that I had to go to the emergency room the following day. My boyfriend and I just hopped on the subway and got there super early in the morning. The waiting room was empty, but somehow it was still busy inside the emergency room itself. Thankfully, they let him come in with me this time. I was able to bring them up to speed on everything that I'd been experiencing since August and the new developments since having my urology appointment. I was a little nervous because they gave me one of those IV drips and pain relievers through that, including morphine, which I'd never had, and that was not a pleasant sensation. I remember the person administering it told me I might feel a bit off as they were doing it, but it hit me a small amount of time afterwards. We didn't have a room or a bed either, so we were sitting on chairs, but where I was sitting, I was kind of able to rest my head on something. I don't even know what it was, maybe part of a desk, because there were workers on the other side. So I slept a fair amount, which helped a lot. Then they were able to get in touch with my urologist. I basically begged them to get the stone out of me. When I tell you I begged, I basically was like, I don't care how you get it out of me, just get it out of me. It was almost 9 months of this, and quite honestly, I was at my limit. I didn't realize until after the surgery how grueling those months were and how much they drained me. I legitimately feel like a completely different person now, though, and I am still concerned about forming another stone, but that's another story. I'm not sure if my urologist was already working that day or if they came in specifically for me, but I had my surgery that afternoon. Remember when I mentioned that my boyfriend and I were just sitting in chairs in a hallway and how we didn't have a room or anything? Well, someone came by with a gown for me to put on, but I'd still need to be sat there on this chair in the hallway in this gown with literally nothing else on underneath. I remember trying to wait a little bit because it was still hours from when they told me my surgery would be, but I decided to change into the gown once I saw another patient who looked real tough and had changed into a gown too. He had a bed though. I'm gonna be so real with you. I kept my underwear on. I was like, ain't no way I'm sitting in this flimsy gown with nothing else on for who knows how long. I don't even think it took that long after that for them to get me a wheelchair and bring me to the surgical floor. All I remember is seeing them wheel me into this place that said endoscopy and having no clue what that meant, but knowing it didn't say anything about kidney stones and assuming, because of my anxiety, that I'd been brought to the wrong place and was about to have some other sort of surgery. There was this lovely nurse there who was so kind to me and tried to calm me down because I was so visibly nervous that I finally asked them if I was in the right place. And they told me that yes, I was still having kidney stone removal surgery. It all feels like a whirlwind after that. I remember my urologist came up behind me looking like a surgeon straight out of Grey's Anatomy or something and told us a bit about the surgery and what to expect. Someone else explained more things to us about my surgery, and then I was being brought into the operating room. I just remember it being incredibly cold and bright, and there being a lot of people. That's when my nurse was like, "Okay, we're gonna get you undressed now," and starts to remove my gown. There were doctors in front of me, behind me, all around. This nurse tried so hard to leave me with some shred of dignity. As I was fully naked and then getting onto the operating table or bed or whatever it was. Seconds later, I was being told I'd have a mask placed on me to prepare for the surgery, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed with my boyfriend standing next to me. A different nurse was talking to me then and explaining things, and all I could think about was how badly I had to go to the bathroom. They handed me one of those portable urinal things, and I remember being like, yeah, okay, almost humoring her until I could be like, not happening, need a bathroom, please. Then I had to walk past a whole bunch of other people, including patients, I guess, and into the bathroom. And the nurse was like, either he goes in with you, meaning my boyfriend, or I do. And so Andy came in with me. After that, I was brought back to the bed, I guess. I actually don't remember that part happening at all. This nurse explained a few more things to us, and then all of a sudden, my parents were there. I was very upset that they didn't bring their dog. Because, they'd be able to just waltz into the hospital with a dog to greet me. Then I think they actually got kicked out by my nurse because only Andy was allowed to be in that space, I guess. Then eventually, I was put in another wheelchair and brought out to, I guess, a pickup area. My dad and Andy went to get the car and pull it up while my mom and I stayed in that area. And then she wheeled me out to the car. She was so nervous. She was going to tip the chair over because it wasn't like a typical wheelchair, just kind of a chair with wheels, I guess. I don't know. I was just so nervous getting in and out of my dad's car because I was terrified I was going to pee my pants or something. I'm realizing now that at some point I got dressed in my own clothes, but I don't remember that happening. I'll have to ask my boyfriend about that when he gets home from work. Then my parents drove us to the pharmacy. Andy waited in line for my prescriptions and picked them up for me. Then my parents drove us home. I was exhausted. I also had to have a stent in for a few days, so I was uncomfortable for almost a full week afterwards, which included my birthday, by the way. The day after my birthday, I had the stent removed, which thankfully wasn't painful, though I was terrified it was going to be. At the end of that week, this past Saturday, I felt well enough to celebrate my birthday on stream. I usually do this big event for my birthday and for my anniversary in August. And I try to make it super fun for everyone, and I think everyone had a good time. We ended up streaming for 12 hours, unlocked a whole bunch of fun new streams and games that I'll be scheduling soon enough, and we played a lot of games together. Okay, so we're already working on the exterior, so I should probably talk a little bit more about the build itself, but that is why you haven't seen any new videos from me. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I actually was working on this. I might have mentioned this already. I don't remember. But I was working on this, I think, the same day as that last CT scan. I needed something to take my mind off of everything. I think this build came together really nicely, too. It was a bit of a weird shape for me, especially with the roofing and by the greenhouse. I thought it was kind of cool, though. I don't love open floor plans, but it just worked for this space, especially with those large windows. There was even space for a smaller sort of mudroom before you get into the living room and kitchen with little dinette table. I did do something kind of weird with the living room and bedroom, though, by adding in that fireplace. I've seen these fireplaces that kind of are open on each side of a wall, so they heat two spaces at once, the living space and the bedroom. And I wanted that here. This fireplace from Businesses and Hobbies kind of works well for that, but it still felt a little strange trying to figure out how to wall around it. I've also, surprisingly, kept in the bathroom furnishing. I usually cut this out of my speed builds, but this one was a bit short compared to some of my other builds, so I left it in. Nothing amazing here, just your standard bathroom. I think I should start getting more inspiration for how to decorate and furnish my bathrooms, though. I just feel like it's such a small portion of each build that it's almost unnecessary to include in the actual footage. I don't know. Do you like the bathrooms? Let me know if you'd prefer I leave them in or keep them out. We always look at them in our tour at the end, though. For the landscaping, there wasn't a ton of room, but I knew that I wanted to add in some trees and do something to make this build fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. This, I think, is one of the reasons why I don't particularly gravitate towards building in Evergreen Harbor. If you look at the surrounding homes, they all look very basic and cookie cutter. So even this build, which the exterior uses a lot from Eco Lifestyle, including the windows, looks kind of out of place. But it's using items from the same pack. I don't know, just a small pet peeve of mine, I suppose. But I basically did as much as I could just to add character and help make this build fit in with the neighborhood. Does anyone else feel like this with building in Evergreen Harbor? Also, a lot of the other neighborhoods don't feel super residential to me, so I haven't really come up with great ideas for community-style builds there. Oh, I didn't even mention the biggest news about my kidney stones. I had 2. We knew about the one from the scan, but when they were performing the surgery, they discovered that I actually had 2 stones. A lot of people have asked if I was going to keep them or if I got to keep them. I didn't. I never even saw them. They broke them up to be able to remove them and then just sent them away to be analyzed. I actually have a follow-up with my urologist at the end of the month to go over everything. Check that I haven't formed any new stones, I guess, and help me figure out a more solid game plan to prevent the formation of new stones. It's all just kind of insane to me. Like, I did the math, and by the end of this month, had I not gotten the surgery in March, it would have been 9 months. That's a whole pregnancy. I think my biggest takeaway is if you're feeling pain like I was, get it checked out immediately. Don't wait. I wish I could say I would have been smart enough to know to do that. I probably could have avoided all of this, but whatever. Here we are. I also haven't had a chance to mention this since my last video, and then I took a small break from posting. But I really should talk about some news in the Sims community, just in case you weren't aware. EA will be going private in a $55 million sale this year. This might not really seem like a big deal if you just play The Sims and don't pay much attention to business things. But it is actually a very big deal. Electronic Arts, EA, is the publisher of The Sims, and there's 2 main reasons I'm unhappy, and a lot of Simmers and just overall gamers are or should be unhappy about this sale. Firstly, the buyers in this sale seem to counter the overall values of The Sims as a game and a community. Think about the inclusion we've seen throughout the years, especially more recently, the much-needed representation that The Sims is bringing to underrepresented communities. A lot of Simmers have been boycotting either the game or these newer packs to send a message to EA. It's not my position to tell you how to feel or what's right or wrong to do as a Simmer in this situation. I don't know what's right. I've been covering new packs, and I am still staying in the Sims Partner Program because it's something I worked really hard for. If things change, I'll figure out what my position will be based on that information, especially since the sale hasn't officially gone through yet. That brings me to the second reason why this is a huge deal. This sale could change gaming in a very big, not great for gamers kind of way. This could be the largest leveraged buyout in history, and that could, and likely will, mean we'll see less great gaming titles published by EA while being hit with more aggressive monetization schemes. Does this sound familiar? Because it should sound exactly like The Sims' latest addition to the game, the Marketplace. Here's some good news, though. Members of the US Congress have already called upon the Federal Trade Commission to do a thorough review of this acquisition before it officially passes. In the meantime, I urge you to do your own research and tell your local representatives, EA, and The Sims about your position. I'm also going to put a link in the description to a petition by Players Alliance on Action Network, which hopes to block the EA deal just in case you want to sign it. I should also mention that while I am a Sims partner, I am not paid to play the game, do videos like this, or cover new packs. I do sometimes receive packs for free to help me make content and hopefully help you decide if a new pack is worth your money. However, I do also have a creator code where whenever my code is used to purchase EA titles, including Sims packs, I receive a small commission. You also receive a 5% discount when you use my code on packs for The Sims 4, excluding the marketplace. But with what I've talked about already, you may not want to support EA and use my creator code right now. That is completely okay and completely up to you. If you still want to support me, a great way to do so is free. Keep watching my videos and interacting with my posts on social media. But with that, I'll take a step off of my soapbox, pop open the game, and give a little overview tour of this build. This right here is Canal Corner, and this is always kind of weird to me because if you upload it to the gallery, you can see, by the way, they completely updated the gallery, but you can see that like the main image here is from this side, which is on like, I guess, a walkable road, not really a drive. And then this side is actually the back. And I feel like a lot of the lots in Evergreen Harbor are like this, and it just kind of confuses me. So I kind of set it up so either way could be the main entrance, but this is the main entrance. Looking from above, you can see that we have this covered sort of walkway to get into the front door and the mailbox. And then you come right into this foyer area or mudroom. And then over on the left, you have this just very green, very nice looking living room. And then you just turn around and here is the kitchen with that little dining area. Over on the other side, there is, of course, a full bathroom. And then you have the primary bedroom over here. And you do have that little fireplace that kind of goes between both rooms. I still don't know how I feel about that. But then there's this door here, which brings you into this greenhouse. And I just think that this looks really cute. And I've never done anything specifically like this in any of my builds, except if they're part of my legacy challenge. And I just think that this looks really cute. I really like the way that this all just came together. And then you also have the solar panels here, and you've got some pathing, and I don't know, it's obviously a tiny lot, but I really like this one. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and then grab the build off of the gallery. To add it to your game, you can find it using my EA ID, Teknikolour. If you'd like to see more of my builds and other cozy gaming videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on future uploads. If you want even more Sims content, consider dropping me a follow over on Twitch. I live stream my pack-based legacy challenge every Thursday, but play other cozy games throughout the week. Planning on picking up Eco Lifestyle or any other packs? Use my creator code, Teknikolour, when checking out on the EA app. It's free for you and supports the channel. Plus, my code can now be used on so many other EA titles, not just The Sims, though that discount only applies for Sims 4 packs. But thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.